Yes, my name is Greta Weissi and I'm from the Nordshield company, and I'm very happy to come here to present to you about this field of antimicrobial textile coating actually. So it's very different that we have discussed today, different kind of technologies, but this is also one very important area in when you are considering sustainable material design and development. So I will first introduce ourselves in brief and then tell you about why are these technologies needed, what are those global challenges. Of course, we have sustainable drivers, which I will introduce you also, and then to discuss the key regulatory challenges that new innovations may face because of these very strict regulatory frameworks. After, we will investigate if there is and what kind of opportunities we might have. So, in brief, we are a small biotech company, but we have a lot of very specialists in their fields, people in their fields, which are handling their own areas very excellently. We have a technical services and own laboratory, so we really can make a lot of efforts and studies ourselves. Nordshield was established in 2016. We really behave according to the management systems. So also one management system that we have is for medical devices, because our field and some of our technologies are aimed for medical area. But the core focus, as I have said, is in textile protection. So we aim to develop nature-based technologies for textiles and replace toxic chemicals and heavy metals that are used today. Our strategy is to have intellectual property developed and efficient and sustainable technologies that follows the safe by design concept. Of course, the key thing is to be regulatory compliance globally, and proof of concept is the one main issue. So our solutions are originating from and inspired by nature. These technologies are nature-based solutions to overcome the problems of resistance and environmentally hazardous antimicrobial coatings used today. We have fabric treatments for also that are non-biocidal, and some are biocidal products. But now I will focus more on the issues what comes from the biocides. So, why are textiles treated with biocides? It is of course because of their microbes growth on textiles very well, and they will cause harm on the textiles and also for the humans because of pathogens can be transmitted. They cause odors as well and other skin sensitizing problems. And of course in medical and healthcare area this is very huge issue. Today they use traditional biocides that contain silver and quartz and have found out to be environmentally hazardous. So how those can actually be on the market at the moment? It is because of the regulatory in EU, for instance. Most of these currently used biocidal textile treatment products are actually under the transitional arrangement that gives unlevel playing field between old and new active substances. So there is a significant need to develop alternatives to conventional biocides. And there are a lot of research on green antimicrobial agents already that are bio-based and environmentally friendly. And our solution
allow the transition of the antimicrobial textiles market from the existing polluting and toxic biocide-based treatment solutions to a natural, sustainable alternative. And the strategy is to develop this via safe by design concept, follow the green chemistry, and meet the regulatory obligations worldwide, which is very bold strategy, but that is what we have to do. So here you can see the sustainability drivers that we indeed have within the EU, a lot of good plan and actions that aims towards toxic-free environments. So EU Commission has the strategy established, chemical strategy for sustainability established in 2020, and it includes this toxic-free hierarchy. This toxic-free hierarchy is going to be the future chemical management actually, and it really boosts innovations by promoting the use of more sustainable chemicals and material design. Also, green chemistry is one aspect that is very important within our field, as it is an ecologically oriented chemistry that integrates the concept of sustainability into every aspect of chemical thinking. Another one, which is very good and also reflects to biocidal products, is strategic research and innovation plan for safe and sustainable chemicals and materials. That is also European Commission plan. And it actually says that develop biocidal products with improved efficiency, biocompatibility, and biodegradability to overcome the problems of traditional ones. So there is a strong need and motivation to develop these other alternatives in this field of biocides as well. Well, it really has been taken into EU Commission's programs, but how it actually can happen? Here are some main key regulatory challenges. First of all, it has to be remembered that if you are claiming any kind of protection against microbes, you normally fall under some kind of biocidal regulation, and then you have a lot of obligations to do. Well, that is very challenging because there is so many different kind of definitions for biocides globally. In one area you talk about biocides, in another antimicrobials, biopesticides, minimum risk pesticides. There are so many variations that you may fall under, or even there is so many variations between one country that you have to take into account. So multiple regulatory schemes with different focuses is very challenging, but you really have to still have a global product that you have to achieve. This, of course, naturally leads to that when you have a lot of regulatory schemes, there is several investments that you have to also do before actual profits can be made. These other costs that can come are study requirements, consultancy fees, and so on. We will see those soon. This is an example about 3 different areas and 3 different assessments of the biocidal products. It really is so that generally argued that the most challenging and most costly regulatory scheme is the EU's PPR. Basically, the PPR does not recognize the concept of natural or organic. It considers your substance. All chemical materials are considered at a similar way. There is possibility to be included to low-risk substances, but if you are not there at the moment, it will require huge investments to get all studies done. EU PPR also recognizes sustainability. It recognizes safer alternatives. It does. But basically, there is very hard to get into that system if you have a new active substance, for instance. If we compare for US, there is a clear definition for biochemical pesticides. They are naturally occurring substances that to control pests by non-toxic mechanism. That is very important word and very good routes also for these kind of natural-based substances. It is a shorter process with fewer requirements. Also, under these lower risk products or active substances, there are other options in the US. It is called treated article exemption or even minimum risk pesticides. So if we compare these two areas, there is a lot of differences, which I will show you soon. However, in Australia, there is an exemption for these kind of textile coatings, and it really recognizes the protective barrier technologies under this exemption. So this is very smooth and fast process and does not require a huge amount of work. But one can argue, of course, that how safe is that if there is not clear control. I want to highlight here that there are so many variations globally between these regulations that you have to really take into account. Of course, it is a self-evident requirement that the safety of the used substance is good. It has to be safe. But if you consider the EU, there is the active substance approval stages. It requires a huge amount of data. It requires a huge amount of money, of course, to fulfill that data in some situations. That really put the applicant into uncertain situation. And that is also the point that in the meanwhile of the registration process, the authorities can require new studies. And we have to be, has to be also noted that if to fall under the basic, quite strong regulation within the EU, there is a lot of also animal studies that are required in this kind of. This is a very busy slide, but I just want to show you about the differences between these two global EU and the US. You can see here new active ingredients application and product authorization. These are green because basically if you are starting with the new active ingredients, you have to be ready that this evaluation period will take 5 years or even more, because then you have to also get authorized your own product, which will take at least 2 years. So the first case scenario for EUs, and if you fall under this most regulated route, is 7 years and a lot of money. However, there is this simplified process. This is very strict as well. It is very hard to get in these kind of processes because there is so many data requirements, but different requirements based on your substance. So here, this is really a shorter route that in EU we have. If we consider the US, now we have to note that here we only see those application routes for these nature-based type of products. Here we do not include about the normal antimicrobial synthetic active substances because they have many possibilities here. But in EU, basically this is the normal route and this is the only option. If you cannot get here, it's very problematic. Here we have the biopesticides, which really, as I described, can be thought as a nature-based low-toxic substances and the product regulation. Of course, there is a lower requirements for the studies, and then you also can get these approvals about 2 years, 3 years time. Yeah, it costs money, but not as bad as comparing to the EU. Then, of course, there is these treated article exemptions, which basically can be done within a year. So all of these options could be possible for these kind of nature-based substances and products. But I can say that it's lacking here. So the regulatory compliance is a fundamental prerequisite, it's for sure. We really need extreme regulatory and research and development intelligence to cope with the regulatory schemes, because they are so different and there are so many different lists to take into account. We could say that the existing regulatory framework hampers the innovations towards more sustainable biocides within the EU. There is a lot of costs, delays, changing requirements already under the one regulatory scheme, and also there is risk getting the new products to market. One issue as well is that basically these sustainable claims cannot be made in EU. Some of course you can do, but there is a restricted claims that you can make, and you cannot find any advantages for if you are using a lower risk biocide, because the authorities doesn't promote those at the moment. They could be shown more about the information, what actually means if you have this simplified procedure, if you have the product that compiles the simplified procedure. So, if we have so many sustainability drivers, but we do not have the accelerated pathway, it's a little bit complicated to get the products on the market. And you really have to do the regulatory and research and development intelligence that you will actually fulfill all requirements that are in the simplified authorization process. As a conclusion, nature-based technologies that are sustainable and safer alternatives does not pose regulatory advantages in all regions. Somewhere, yes, but not definitely everywhere. This raised the question that how we ensure and demonstrate the compliance for nature-derived substances without an appropriated scheme. As I said, the regulatory approvals are timely and very costly, often insufficient and lacking the middle routes for an accelerated pathway. The dossiers are very complex, costs are very high, and there is require close planning and require a lot of teamwork and consultancy as well. Yeah, we can say that we really would need accelerated pathways, at least in the EU, that should support nature-based, more safe and more environmental friendlier products and active ingredients. So I have now shown that there is a lot of goals within the EU Commission to boost new innovations, to develop these nature-based substances within the chemical management and risk management fields. But there is a lacking of the right way to do that at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Detta. Sorry about the microphone. It's difficult to volume manage very well, but it's in the clicker and the phone and the microphone. So in terms of competition from Northshield's perspective, what does it look like?
Yeah, I can say that there are all main used companies, they try to develop these nature-based and better alternatives, but it is extremely hard to find those kind of formulations that actually suits well within these processes because of the requirements are very strict. So there are, of course, those competitions, and there are technologies that are developed from nature-based substances, but often they lack the durability and the efficacy as well.
But on the other hand, we see there's demand from the customers because we are becoming more and more aware of what we bring on our skin and also what happens when we wash our textiles. It pollutes the waters, it creates all sorts of problems downstream, literally. So how important is the customer pressure in this business?
It is very important because the customers actually is the voice that now should be heard also from to the regulatory side. So we have often concluded in many cases that normally it is the customers who should actually bring more of these issues because it is really needed, and it's just so strict control within the EU at the moment.
Well, thank you very much, Greta, and best of luck at your important work.
Thank you.
Thank you.